story. Mike Montgomery's muscles burned as he climbed the stairs to his front door, his security guard uniform damp with sweat from another grueling night shift. The brass key trembled between his calloused fingers as he unlocked the door, his body crying out for rest after 18 straight hours of work. At 45, the toll of maintaining 3 jobs was beginning to show in the deep lines etched across his face and the silver threading through his dark hair. The house sat quiet at 4 a.m., but something felt off. Mike's nostrils flared at the unfamiliar scent, an expensive cologne that didn't belong to him. His jaw clenched as he moved through the darkness, years of security work having honed his instincts. The living room appeared untouched, family photos still displaying their perfect smiles, but the dining room told a different story. 2 wine glasses sat in the sink, one bearing the crimson stain of his wife's favorite Cabernet, the other marked with an unfamiliar brand of lip gloss. Mike's chest tightened as he entered his home office. The mahogany desk, a cherished inheritance from his father, bore fresh water rings, marring its pristine surface. He never drank at this desk. It was sacred, a symbol of his father's legacy of hard work and dignity. His fingers traced the circular stains, and something inside him shifted, a dangerous calm settling over his features. The acceptance letter from Princeton University lay prominently displayed on his desk, topped with a fresh stack of loan applications. Mike picked up the prestigious document, remembering the moment Kevin had burst through the door waving it triumphantly. The pride in his son's eyes had made all the overtime worthwhile, the endless hours teaching chemistry to privileged teenagers, the evenings spent beneath car hoods at Bobby's auto shop, the mind-numbing weekend security shifts. "Dad, we did it," Kevin had shouted that day, his wife Joanna beaming beside him. "Princeton, can you believe it?" Mike had embraced them both, ignoring the ache in his back from a double shift. "Of course I can believe it, son. You're a Montgomery. We achieve whatever we set our minds to." Now, sitting at his violated desk, Mike pulled out his calculator. The numbers were staggering. Even with his 3 jobs, the loans would take 15 years to repay. But he'd been ready to sacrifice everything for Kevin's future, just as his father had sacrificed for him. A notification lit up his phone, a credit card alert for a $2,300 charge at an upscale restaurant in Boston. Mike frowned. The joint card was supposed to be for emergencies only. Joanna's real estate commission checks had been substantial lately. She should have used her own account. He opened his banking app, scrolling through recent transactions. Designer boutiques, spa treatments, jewelry stores, thousands spent while he worked himself to exhaustion. His wife's expensive tastes had always stretched their budget, but this was different. The purchases coincided with property showings to high-end clients, particularly one name that appeared with increasing frequency: Terrence Wilson. Mike's fingers moved mechanically across the keyboard as he searched for Wilson online. The results painted a picture of wealth and influence. A real estate developer with a fleet of exotic cars and properties scattered along the coast. Recent photos showed him at charity galas, surrounded by beautiful women, his silver-streaked hair and tailored suits exuding power. The sound of movement upstairs froze Mike in place. Joanna's voice drifted down, too faint to make out words. She was supposed to be asleep. He'd texted earlier saying he'd be late. Mike rose silently, years of security work evident in his measured movements. The stairs didn't creak under his weight as he ascended, following his wife's voice to their bedroom. "I miss you too," Joanna whispered into her phone. "No, he won't be home for hours." 3rd shift at that ridiculous security job. Mike's hands curled into fists, but he remained still, letting the rage build quietly within him. "I know, baby. It's exhausting pretending. But once Kevin starts at Princeton, I'll tell him everything. He can't afford the tuition anyway. This is our chance." She laughed softly. "Yes, I'll wear that little black thing you bought me." "Sweet dreams, Terrence." The last name confirmation struck Mike like a physical blow. He withdrew silently, descending the stairs with mechanical precision. In his office, he sank into his chair, staring at his father's desk. The water rings seemed to mock him now, evidence of another man's casual disrespect for everything Mike held sacred. He pulled out his own phone, thumb hovering over Bobby Yates' number. His friend had been trying to warn him for weeks, dropping hints about Joanna's frequent property showings with Wilson. Mike had dismissed the concerns, trusting his wife of 20 years. The memory of Bobby's concerned face twisted something inside him. "Mike, buddy, I need to tell you something," Bobby had said last week, wiping grease from his hands as they closed up the shop. "People talk. You know, your wife's been showing Wilson a lot of properties. Like, a lot. And not all of them during business hours." "Joanna knows what she's doing," Mike had replied firmly. "Wilson's a big client. Those commissions are helping pay for Kevin's future." Bobby had gripped his shoulder. "Just keep your eyes open, brother. I hate seeing you work yourself to death while—" Mike had cut him off, refusing to entertain the implications. Now, surrounded by evidence of his wife's betrayal, those words burned in his mind. He opened his desk drawer, removing an old photo of his father. Richard Montgomery stared back at him with eyes that demanded strength, honor, and above all, respect. Mike traced the water rings on the desk once more, feeling the last traces of doubt evaporate. "I won't let them disrespect your memory, Dad," he whispered. "Or everything you taught me." Mike Montgomery straightened in his chair, exhaustion forgotten as cold determination settled over him. He'd sacrificed everything to give his family the best life possible. Now they'd learn exactly what kind of man they'd betrayed. Not the mild-mannered chemistry teacher or the quiet mechanic, but the son of Richard Montgomery, who taught him that respect was earned through strength and loyalty was repaid in kind. He picked up his phone again, but this time there was no hesitation as he dialed. "Preston? It's Mike. I need your help with something. How quickly can you get me everything there is to know about Terrence Wilson?" Bobby Yates wiped his hands on a shop rag, watching Mike work beneath a lifted Mercedes. It was nearly closing time at the auto shop, and most of the other mechanics had gone home. The rhythmic clanking of tools against metal filled the space as Mike attacked the vehicle's undercarriage with barely contained aggression. "Mike," Bobby called out, his voice echoing in the nearly empty garage. "You've been under there for 2 hours. That oil change should have taken 20 minutes. The clanking stopped. Mike rolled out on the creeper, his face streaked with grease and something darker, a fury Bobby had never seen in his friend's eyes. "The filter housing was stripped," Mike replied, his voice unnaturally controlled. "I'm being thorough." Bobby pulled up a shop stool, positioning himself between Mike and the car. "Cut the bullshit. You've been different lately. Agitated. Taking extra shifts, avoiding conversations. What's eating at you?" Mike sat up slowly, his movements deliberate as he reached for another tool. "You try to tell me, Bobby, about Joanna and Wilson. I should have listened. Ah, Christ." Bobby ran a hand through his thinning hair. "What happened? You want to know what happened?" Mike's grip tightened on the wrench until his knuckles went white. "I'll tell you what happened. My wife's been showing more than just properties to Terrence Wilson. And my son, my own flesh and blood. He's been laughing about it behind my back." Bobby leaned forward, concern etched across his weathered face. "Talk to me, brother. How did you find out?" Mike's laugh was hollow, devoid of humor. "Forgot my damn security badge last night. Drove all the way back home to get it. Heard Kevin on the phone through the kitchen window, telling his friend what a fool his old man is." His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "Working 3 jobs while Wilson takes them shopping in his Ferrari. Sleeping in my bed when I'm on night shift. Using my house, the house my father helped me buy, for their little rendezvous." "Jesus, Mike." Bobby stood, pacing the oil-stained concrete. "What are you going to do?" "Do?" Mike rose from the creeper, his full height impressive as he squared his shoulders. "I'm going to destroy them, Bobby. All of them. But I need to know everything first. Every detail, every secret, every weakness." Bobby's eyes widened at the cold calculation in his friend's voice. This wasn't the quiet chemistry teacher who helped neighborhood kids with their homework. This was someone else entirely, someone dangerous. "Wilson's not just some rich developer," Bobby said carefully. "He's got connections, power. People who cross him tend to disappear from the social scene pretty quickly." Mike smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Good thing I never cared much for the social scene. Tell me everything you've heard about him and Joanna. Every rumor, every whisper. Leave nothing out." Bobby hesitated, then pulled out his phone. There's been talk at the country club. My cousin works maintenance there. Wilson and Joanna meet there sometimes. Middle of the day. Private dining room. She's been seen leaving through the service entrance. When? Tuesdays, usually. Around 2. Right when you're teaching advanced chemistry to those private school kids. Mike nodded slowly, methodically wiping his hands. What else? They've been spotted at the Capitol Grill, that fancy steakhouse downtown. Real estate meetings, supposedly. But the maitre d' told my nephew they get awful cozy in those private booths. The Capitol Grill, Mike repeated, making a mental note. Where Wilson takes all his special clients, I'm sure. Mike, Bobby stepped closer, lowering his voice. There's something else. Something bigger. Wilson's company. It's not as clean as it looks. There are rumors about where his money comes from, how he affords all those properties and cars. Mike's eyes sharpened. What kind of rumors? The kind that interest federal agencies. Bobby glanced around the empty shop. My cousin overheard Wilson and Joanna arguing in the club parking lot last week. Something about cash deposits and keeping quiet. It didn't sound like normal real estate talk. Mike absorbed this information silently, his mind already calculating angles and opportunities. Your cousin. How reliable is he? Rock solid. 20 years at the club. Knows everybody's business. He's worried about Joanna. Actually, says Wilson's got a history with his female agents. They either get rich or they disappear, usually right before some big investigation breaks. And Joanna knows this? Has to. It's not exactly a secret in the real estate world. Wilson's last girlfriend, real estate agent, she's living in Dubai now. Left the country right before the feds started asking questions about some property deals. Mike walked to his toolbox, methodically organizing his wrenches. You still have that security camera set up in your house? The one you installed after the break-in? Bobby nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. Top of the line. Records everything. Uploads to secure cloud storage. Why? I might need to borrow some equipment. Mike's voice was casual, but his eyes were anything but. For protection, of course. Given Wilson's reputation, Mike, Bobby stepped forward, placing a hand on his friend's shoulder. Whatever you're planning, be careful. I've known you 20 years. Watched you work yourself to the bone for your family. You're the most honest man I know. Don't let them turn you into something you're not. Mike turned, and Bobby almost stepped back at the intensity in his friend's gaze. They already have. Bobby, the honest man? The dedicated teacher? The faithful husband? He died the moment he heard his son laughing about his mother's affair. He closed his toolbox with decisive click. What's left is Richard Montgomery's son. And my father taught me exactly how to handle betrayal. Bobby watched as Mike gathered his things, movements precise and controlled. What do you need from me? Those security cameras, for starters. And your discretion. Mike paused at the shop door. One more thing. If Wilson brings any of his cars here for service, I want to know about it. Especially that Ferrari Kevin's so impressed with. The red one? Yeah, it's due for maintenance next week. Wilson only trusts us with his exotics. A cold smile played across Mike's features. Perfect. Put me on that job personally. I'll make sure everything's running exactly as it should. Bobby suppressed a shiver at his friend's tone. Mike, promise me something. Whatever you're planning, make sure you come out the other side. Your father wouldn't want you throwing your life away over their betrayal. Mike's expression softened slightly. My father taught me to protect what's mine, Bobby. Family, honor, respect. They took all of that from me. His eyes hardened again. Now I'm going to take everything from them. And I'm going to do it by their own rules. Nice and legal, nice and clean. They'll never even see it coming. As Mike's footsteps faded into the night, Bobby stared after him, wondering if he'd just witnessed the birth of something terrible. Or perhaps the revelation of something that had been there all along, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Preston Fowler's office resembled a film noir detective's lair, with filing cabinets lining the walls and computer screens casting a blue glow across his angular face. The private investigator leaned back in his chair, watching Mike pace the worn carpet. I need everything on Terrence Wilson. Mike's voice was steel-wrapped in silk. And I mean everything. Every property, every shell company, every woman he's ever dated. I want to know what he eats for breakfast and which hand he uses to sign his checks. Preston steepled his fingers, studying his old college roommate. Gone was the easygoing chemistry major who'd helped him pass organic chemistry. In his place stood someone altogether more dangerous. Before we start, Preston said carefully, you should know something. Wilson's already on my radar. His company's under SEC investigation, serious stuff. Money laundering through real estate deals, offshore accounts, the works. Mike stopped pacing, his attention razor-sharp. Tell me more. He buys properties through shell companies, inflates their value, then sells them to other shell companies he controls. Classic washing scheme. But here's where it gets interesting. He uses real estate agents to facilitate the deals, pays them extra to handle cash deposits, manage unofficial paperwork. Agents like my wife? Preston nodded grimly. Joanna's name has come up in my research. She's handled 6 properties for Wilson in the last year, all sold significantly above market value, all to companies that trace back to his network. Mike's expression remained neutral, but his eyes blazed. Show me the evidence. Preston turned to his computer, pulling up documents. These are the property records. Notice the sale prices, 2, 3 times market value. And here, he clicked through several screens, are the deposits Joanna's made to an account in the Cayman Islands. Small amounts, under reporting thresholds, but they add up. She's been laundering money for him. Mike's voice was deadly quiet. Not just laundering. Look at these dates. Preston highlighted several transactions. The deposits align perfectly with Wilson's biggest property flips. She's not just some patsy, Mike. She's a willing participant. Mike absorbed this information, his mind already formulating plans. What about Kevin? Is he involved? Preston shook his head. No direct involvement, but... He hesitated. But what? His SAT scores. Something's off. I pulled his test records, benefits of having friends in the testing company. The improvement between his first and second attempt? Statistically impossible. And guess who sits on the board of the test prep company he used? Wilson, Mike growled. Wilson's brother-in-law. Actually, they've been investigated before for testing irregularities, but nothing ever sticks. Mike's hands clenched into fists. So Wilson bought my son's way into Princeton while sleeping with my wife in my bed. Mike, Preston leaned forward, concern evident in his voice. This goes deeper than adultery. Wilson's under investigation by 3 different agencies. The SEC's just the tip of the iceberg. If Joanna's involved in his schemes, she could be looking at serious time. Mike stood absolutely still, processing this information. What kind of time are we talking about? Money laundering carries up to 20 years. Wire fraud, another 20. If they can prove she knew about the source of the funds, Preston let the implications hang in the air. And Wilson? What's his exposure? Preston pulled up another file. He's looking at RICO charges. The feds think his real estate empire is just a front. The cars, the houses, the charity galas, all bought with dirty money. But he's smart, keeps his hands clean, uses people like Joanna to do the dirty work. Mike's eyes narrowed. People like Joanna. How many others? 5 agents in the last 3 years. All women, all followed the same pattern. He wines and dines them, promises them a piece of his empire. Then when the heat comes, Preston clicked through several photos. 2 in Dubai, 1 in Singapore, 1 disappeared completely. The last one tried to turn state's evidence. Tried. Car accident. Very unfortunate timing. Preston's tone made it clear what he thought about the accident. Mike moved to the window, staring out at the city lights. My wife and son think I'm a fool, Preston. Working 3 jobs, killing myself to give them the good life. Meanwhile, they're laughing it up with a criminal who's using them like disposable pawns. What do you want to do? Mike turned, and Preston almost flinched at the cold calculation in his friend's eyes. I want to set a trap. One that uses their own greed and arrogance against them. But I need your help. Preston nodded slowly. What kind of help? I need surveillance equipment. Top of the line, completely untraceable. Cameras, microphones, the works. I want to document every meeting, every phone call, every betrayal. I can get you what you need. But Mike, be careful. If Wilson realizes you're gathering evidence, he won't. Mike's voice was ice. To him, I'm just the working-class husband, too busy with my 3 jobs to notice anything. That's what makes this perfect. Preston pulled out a notepad. What else? I need financial records. Everything you can get on Wilson's companies, his properties, his accounts. And I need a direct line to your contact at the SEC. That's dangerous territory, Mike. These people don't play nice. Neither do I. Not anymore. Mike's expression hardened. They turned me into this, Preston. My own wife and son, conspiring with a criminal to humiliate me. Using my father's house for their affair, while I work security shifts to pay for a college admission they bought through fraud. Preston studied his friend, remembering the idealistic young man who dreamed of teaching science to kids. That man was gone, replaced by someone forged in betrayal's fire. There's one more thing you should know, Preston said quietly. Wilson's hosting a beach weekend next month. Guest list includes several of his special real estate agents. Joanna's name is on the list. Mike's smile was terrifying in its calmness. Perfect. That gives us time to set everything up. I want cameras in my house before that weekend. I want to capture every phone call, every conversation. I want evidence that will destroy them so completely they'll never recover. And Kevin? He's still your son, Mike.
No.
Mike's voice was final. My son died the moment he chose to protect his mother's affair. The moment he laughed at my sacrifice. The moment he accepted Wilson's help to cheat his way into Princeton. He pulled out his phone, checking the time. I have a chemistry class to teach in 3 hours. Start gathering the equipment. I'll transfer the money tonight. Preston stood, placing a hand on Mike's shoulder. Just remember, revenge has a price. Make sure you're willing to pay it. Mike looked at his old friend, his eyes harder than Preston had ever seen them. They already took everything that mattered. My marriage, my son, my dignity. All that's left is making sure they understand exactly who they betrayed. As Mike left the office, Preston sat heavily in his chair, staring at the files on his screen. He'd seen many cases of infidelity in his career, documented countless betrayals. But something about this was different. Mike Montgomery wasn't just planning revenge. He was systematically dismantling the foundations of his own life to ensure his betrayer's destruction would be absolute. Preston closed the files, making a mental note to back up everything to secure servers. Whatever happened next, he had a feeling the world was about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating quiet men who worked 3 jobs to support their families. Sometimes, those men turned out to be the most dangerous of all. Lucia Reeves drummed her perfectly manicured nails against her desk, her forensic accountant's mind processing the numbers displayed on her dual monitors. The financial patterns were clear, too clear for someone supposedly trying to hide money. Your wife isn't just careless, Mike, she said, turning to where Mike Montgomery sat, his presence filling her office with barely contained intensity. She wants to get caught. Look at these deposits. Mike leaned forward, his eyes scanning the transaction records. Show me. 6 properties in the last year, all sold to Wilson's shell companies. Lucia highlighted several rows. Each sale followed by multiple cash deposits just under the reporting threshold. Classic structuring pattern. She pointed to a series of transactions. But look here. She's using her own personal account, not even bothering with intermediaries. It's like she's daring someone to notice. Or she thinks no one's watching. Mike's voice carried a dangerous edge. How much total? Conservative estimate? About $850,000 in kickbacks. That's not counting the inflated commissions from the fraudulent sales. Lucia pulled up another document. Wilson's operation is sophisticated. He's using legitimate businesses to wash the money. Restaurants, car dealerships, even charities. But Joanna? She's getting sloppy. Expensive shopping sprees, luxury spa treatments, all paid from the same account where she deposits the cash. Preston Fowler emerged from his corner of the office, adding his perspective. We've been tracking their meetings. They're not even trying to be discreet anymore. 3-hour property showings at Wilson's penthouse. Late-night strategy sessions at exclusive restaurants. All while you're working your security shifts. Mike's expression remained neutral, but his eyes blazed. And Kevin? He's been benefiting from their arrangement, Lucia said carefully. Designer clothes, new electronics, expensive dinners, all charged to Wilson's corporate accounts as client entertainment. The boy I raised. Mike's words carried cold fury. Accepting bribes from my wife's lover. Preston shared a glance with Lucia before continuing. There's more. Wilson's been grooming him, offering internships at his company, promising him connections at Princeton. The SAT irregularity wasn't a one-time thing. We found evidence of academic dishonesty going back months. Essays written by professional services, test answers provided in advance. Mike stood, pacing the office with controlled movements. I want it all documented. Every transaction, every meeting, every gift. Build me an ironclad case. Mike. Lucia's voice held concern. What are you planning? They chose their path. Mike stopped at the window, his reflection hard and unforgiving. Now I'm choosing mine. Preston, what about those cameras? Preston nodded, opening a briefcase on Lucia's desk. Top-of-the-line surveillance package. Wireless, motion-activated, cloud storage. I can have them installed while they're at Wilson's beach house this weekend. Good. Mike turned back to Lucia. I need you to do something else for me. Track down Wilson's other victims, the agents who disappeared when things got hot. Find out exactly what happened to them. Lucia's fingers flew across her keyboard. Already on it. The pattern's disturbing, Mike. These women, they either fled the country or met with accidents. The one who tried to cooperate with the SEC, her brake lines were cut. Official report called it mechanical failure. And that's what Joanna's walking into, Preston added. Wilson's not just using her for money laundering. He's setting her up as the fall guy. When the SEC moves in, she'll be another cautionary tale. Mike finished, his voice devoid of emotion. Unless someone moves first. Lucia pulled up another screen. Wilson's getting nervous. His last 3 property deals fell through. Buyers backing out, banks asking questions. He's accelerating his timeline, pushing Joanna to handle more cash transactions. Let me guess, this beach house weekend is actually a business meeting. Preston nodded grimly. 5 other agents invited, all handling different territories. Wilson's consolidating his operation, probably planning to move money offshore before the SEC closes in. Mike's laugh was cold. Perfect. They'll document their own conspiracy while I'm installing cameras in my house. Sometimes karma has a sense of humor. Mike, Lucia stood, concern evident in her voice. These people, they're dangerous. If they realize what you're doing, they won't. Mike's confidence was absolute. They think I'm too busy working 3 jobs to notice anything. Too simple to understand their sophisticated financial schemes. Too weak to fight back. His smile was terrifying in its calmness. That's why this will work. They've underestimated me for so long. They won't see it coming until it's too late. Preston checked his watch. Joanna's showing properties until 6. Kevin has basketball practice. We can start installing the cameras now. Mike nodded, his decision made. Do it. I want every room covered, every conversation recorded. When they return from their beach weekend, I want enough evidence to bury them all. As Mike left for his teaching job, Lucia and Preston exchanged worried glances. They'd seen his transformation from dedicated family man to avenging force, and something told them this was only the beginning. Think he'll go too far? Lucia whispered. Preston shook his head, gathering his surveillance equipment. Mike's not the one who went too far. They did that when they betrayed the most dangerous kind of man, one with nothing left to lose but his principles. The office fell silent save for the hum of computers and the quiet beeping of financial algorithms tracking dirty money across digital landscapes. In a few hours, Mike would teach chemistry to privileged teenagers, then fix cars at Bobby's shop before donning his security guard uniform. But now, every shift wasn't just about supporting his family. It was about maintaining the facade while he methodically prepared their destruction. Janie Ferris, Mike's attorney, reviewed the documents spread across her desk with growing concern. 20 years of legal practice hadn't prepared her for the cold precision of Mike Montgomery's revenge. You want everything transferred to your name, she repeated, studying her client's impassive face. The house, cars, all accounts. You do realize this is highly irregular without filing for divorce first? Mike sat perfectly still, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. I have power of attorney. Joanna signed it last year when she thought I was too busy working to actually use it, and you've waited until now because? Because now I have evidence of her criminal activities. Mike placed a USB drive on Janie's desk. 6 fraudulent real estate transactions. Money laundering. Tax evasion. All documented, all verified by a forensic accountant. Janie picked up the drive carefully. This changes things. But Mike, what about Kevin's college fund? That money is specifically designated for his education. He made his choice. Mike's voice carried no emotion. When he chose to protect his mother's affair, when he accepted Wilson's bribes, when he cheated his way into Princeton, he chose his path. The courts might see it differently. Mike's laugh was devoid of warmth. The courts will see a son who participated in academic fraud to gain admission to an elite university. They'll see bank records showing he accepted gifts from his mother's lover, paid for with laundered money. They'll see phone records of him mocking his father's sacrifices while benefiting from criminal activities. Janie leaned back, reassessing the quiet man before her. She'd known Mike for years, handled his father's estate, helped him buy the house. She'd always seen him as the dedicated family man, working multiple jobs to provide for his loved ones. This calculated strategist was someone else entirely. What about your teaching position? She asked. The school board, I've already spoken with Stanley Key, the principal, Mike interrupted. Documented everything. Kevin's academic dishonesty, the fraudulent SAT scores, the essays he bought with Wilson's money. Stanley's been suspicious for months. Apparently, my son's sudden academic improvement raised red flags. Janie began organizing the transfer documents. This will destroy them, Mike. All of them. Joanna will lose her real estate license. Kevin's academic career. They destroyed themselves. Mike's voice was steel. I just provided the opportunity. Now, can you execute these transfers without tipping them off? Yes, but then do it. Everything in my name. I want it done before they return from their beach weekend with Wilson. Janie nodded slowly, reaching for her notary seal. And Kevin's inheritance? Your father's estate specifically included provisions for his grandson. Mike stood, walking to the window. For a moment, his reflection showed a flicker of pain before hardening again. My father believed in honesty, hard work, and family loyalty. Kevin betrayed every one of those principles. He doesn't deserve Richard Montgomery's legacy. The paperwork will be ready in an hour, Janie said, recognizing the finality in his tone. But Mike, as your attorney and friend, I have to ask, are you sure about this? Once I file these documents, there's no going back. Mike turned, and Janie almost flinched at the intensity in his gaze. They're at Wilson's beach house right now, planning their future with my money, in my house, at my expense. All while I work 3 jobs to maintain their comfortable lifestyle. He placed both hands on her desk, leaning forward. The time for going back ended the moment they chose to betray me. As Mike left her office, Janie began preparing the documents that would transfer everything into his name. In 20 years of family law, she'd seen countless bitter divorces and family disputes. But something about Mike Montgomery's methodical dismantling of his own family's future sent chills down her spine. She picked up her phone, dialing Stanley Key's number. The principal answered on the second ring. Stanley? It's Janie Ferris. I need everything you have on Kevin Montgomery's academic record. And Stanley? Make sure it's comprehensive. His father's executing his endgame. Yvonne Rasmussen's fingers flew across her keyboard, editing software humming as she compiled the surveillance footage. As Mike's colleague in the chemistry department, she'd always admired his dedication. Now, watching the video evidence of his family's betrayal, she felt a mix of horror and vindication. This is comprehensive, she said, gesturing to the multiple screens displaying different camera angles of Mike's house. They didn't even try to hide it. Mike stood behind her, watching the footage with detached interest. Why would they? The fool working 3 jobs wouldn't notice anything. The videos told a devastating story. Joanna and Wilson in intimate moments throughout the house. Kevin accepting envelopes of cash and expensive gifts. Phone conversations about offshore accounts and property deals. Every betrayal, every lie, every mockery of Mike's sacrifices, all captured in high definition. The timeline's ready, Yvonne said, pulling up her edited sequence. I've synchronized the footage with their bank records and phone calls. It's brutal. Good. Mike checked his watch. They'll be back from the beach house tomorrow evening. Everything needs to be perfect. The montage will play on a loop, Yvonne confirmed, making final adjustments, starting with Joanna's first meeting with Wilson, progressing through Kevin's involvement, ending with their plans for this weekend. I've included audio from their phone conversations, the ones where they discuss using your night shifts for their meetings. Mike nodded, reviewing the footage. Add the financial records Preston provided. I want them to see exactly how their betrayal was funded. Yvonne hesitated, her hand hovering over the keyboard. Mike, this will destroy them. Not just legally, this will break them psychologically. Seeing themselves like this, knowing they were being watched. They chose to perform. Mike's voice was ice. I'm just providing the playback. She turned to face him, concern evident in her expression. And Kevin? He's just a kid, Mike. Manipulated by his mother and Wilson. A kid who laughed at his father's sacrifice. Mike cut her off. A kid who chose wealth and ease over integrity. A kid who accepted bribes and cheated his way into Princeton while I worked security shifts to pay for his future. His eyes hardened. He's not a child, Yvonne. He's a willing participant in their conspiracy. Yvonne returned to her editing, adding the final touches to the montage. The termination notice from Wilson's board. Where do you want that? Next to the TV. Along with Kevin's Princeton acceptance letter. Mike's smile was cold. Let them see everything they're losing in one perfect moment. As Yvonne finalized the video sequence, Mike methodically arranged the documents on his living room table. The termination notice that would end Wilson's reign. The evidence that would strip Joanna of her real estate license. The proof of Kevin's academic fraud that would close the doors of Princeton forever. It's ready, Yvonne announced, stepping back from her work. The footage will start playing the moment they enter. Every screen in the house will show their betrayal in perfect synchronization. Mike reviewed the final setup, adjusting the Princeton letter's position slightly. Thank you, Yvonne. You understand this stays between us? She nodded, gathering her equipment. Of course. But Mike, what will you do after? After? Mike's laugh was hollow. I'll teach my chemistry classes. Fix cars at Bobby's shop. Work my security shifts. Nothing changes. Except now they'll understand exactly who they betrayed. As Yvonne left, Mike stood in his living room, surrounded by the evidence of his family's destruction. Tomorrow, they would return from their beach weekend, flush with plans for their future. They would walk into their carefully constructed reality show, expecting to find the same devoted husband and father they'd taken for granted. Instead, they would find Mike Montgomery, son of Richard Montgomery, a man who understood that true strength lay not in forgiveness, but in ensuring betrayal carried consequences that would echo through generations. He picked up the Princeton acceptance letter one last time, remembering the pride he'd felt when Kevin had first shown it to him. Now it would serve a different purpose, a symbol of how quickly ill-gotten gains could turn to ashes. The cameras watched silently from their hidden positions, ready to capture one final performance. Tomorrow, his family would learn that the man they dismissed as a simple worker, too busy with his 3 jobs to notice their betrayal, had orchestrated their downfall with the same dedication he'd once shown to their happiness. The quiet hum of electronics filled the darkened house as Mike Montgomery stood motionless in the shadows of his living room. The TV screens flickered with surveillance footage, waiting to deliver their devastating message. He checked his watch. They would arrive any minute now. The security camera feed on his phone showed Joanna's car pulling into the driveway. Kevin sat in the passenger seat, both of them laughing about something. Mike's jaw tightened as he watched them unload their beach bags, their movements casual and relaxed, completely unaware of what awaited them. The key turned in the lock. Mike remained perfectly still, positioned where he could see their faces clearly when the truth hit them. The door opened, spilling dim evening light into the entryway. That was amazing. Kevin's voice drifted in. When can we go back to the beach house, Mom? Soon, honey. Your father's working double shifts next weekend too. So, they froze as they entered the living room, their eyes drawn to the multiple TV screens playing synchronized footage of their betrayal. Joanna's face went chalk white as she watched herself in Wilson's arms, in Mike's bed. What is this? She whispered, her designer bag slipping from nerveless fingers. Kevin stood paralyzed, watching footage of himself accepting envelopes from Wilson, laughing about his father's ignorance over lunch at expensive restaurants. Your reality show. Mike's voice cut through the darkness, making them both jump. Great performances, all of you. The betrayed wife, the misunderstood son, the wealthy savior. You deserve every award. Dad, I can explain. Kevin lunged for his Princeton acceptance letter on the table, but Mike's hand shot out, grabbing his wrist with iron strength. Princeton doesn't accept students who cheat on their SATs. Mike's voice carried no emotion. Yes, I know about that too. Along with the bought essays, the fake extracurriculars, the manufactured recommendations. Tell me, son, was there anything honest about your application? You don't understand. Joanna stepped forward, her voice trembling. Terrence was helping us. Helping you launder money through fraudulent real estate deals? Mike released Kevin's wrist and turned to face his wife. Helping you accept illegal kickbacks? Helping you betray every principle I taught our son? How did you? Joanna's eyes darted around the room, finally noticing the small camera lenses watching from strategic positions. You thought I was too stupid to notice? Mike's laugh was cold. Too busy working my 3 jobs to see what was happening in my own house? That's the beautiful irony. You were so convinced of my ignorance, you never bothered to hide your contempt. Kevin collapsed onto the couch, his face ashen as he watched himself on screen mocking his father's work ethic. Dad, please, I didn't mean. You didn't mean for me to find out. Mike cut him off. That's different from not meaning to do it. Look at the screen, Kevin. Look at yourself laughing about how I work security shifts to pay for your future while you cash Wilson's checks. Joanna's eyes narrowed, her initial shock giving way to calculation. The house is in my name too. You can't. Check again. Mike's smile was terrifying in its calmness. The house, the cars, the accounts, everything was transferred to my name this morning. Legal, binding, and completely irreversible. Your signature on that power of attorney last year really came in handy. You can't do this. Joanna's voice rose hysterically. I'll call Terrence. Terrence Wilson won't be taking any calls for a while. Mike gestured to the termination notice on the table. His board of directors received an interesting package of documents this morning. The SEC is probably executing search warrants as we speak. Kevin grabbed his phone, fingers trembling as he tried to dial. This isn't happening. This can't be happening. Oh, it's happening. Mike moved to stand behind his son, watching the screen over his shoulder. No signal? I took the liberty of suspending our family plan, along with your credit cards, bank accounts, and that trust fund you were counting on for Princeton. Though that hardly matters now, does it? Mike, please. Joanna stepped toward him, reaching out. We can talk about this. We can fix. Fix what? Mike's voice could have frozen fire. Fix how you used my house for your affair while I worked nights? Fix how our son became a liar and a cheat under your guidance. Fix how you helped Wilson launder money through fraudulent deals. He pointed to the screens. The evidence is already with the FBI, the SEC, and Princeton's admissions office. There's nothing left to fix. You're destroying our family. Joanna screamed. No. Mike's calm was absolute. You destroyed our family the moment you chose to betray everything I built. I'm just making sure you understand exactly what that choice cost you. Kevin stood on shaky legs, his teenage bravado crumbling. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my concern anymore. Mike turned away from them, his posture rigid. You have 30 minutes to pack essentials. Anything left behind becomes my property, along with everything else you thought you could take from me. Dad, please. Kevin's voice broke. I'm your son. No. Mike didn't turn around. My son died the moment he chose to protect his mother's affair. The moment he accepted bribes to betray his father's principles. The moment he laughed at the sacrifices I made for his future. He checked his watch. 29 minutes. I suggest you use them wisely. As Joanna and Kevin stumbled upstairs to pack, Mike stood in his living room, surrounded by video evidence of their betrayal. He felt no satisfaction, no triumph, only a cold certainty that justice was finally being served. The cameras continued their silent vigil, recording one final scene for his collection. The moment his wife and son realized that the man they'd underestimated, the man they'd betrayed, had orchestrated their complete and total destruction. Preston Fowler sat in his office, watching multiple news feeds play across his monitors. Each one told a different part of the same story: the dramatic fall of real estate mogul Terrence Wilson. Federal agents raided Wilson development offices in 6 cities, one reporter announced. Sources say the investigation centers around allegations of money laundering through fraudulent real estate transactions. Another screen showed Wilson being led out of his office in handcuffs, his usual confident smirk replaced by barely contained panic. The crawler beneath read, "Real estate tycoon Terrence Wilson arrested on multiple federal charges." Mike sat across from Preston's desk, his expression unreadable as he watched the chaos unfold. How many agents were implicated? 12 so far, Preston replied, pulling up a document. Joanna's name is high on the list. The SEC is particularly interested in those 6 transactions you documented. They're calling her a key facilitator. And Wilson's board? In complete disarray. The termination notice was just the beginning. 3 directors have resigned. 2 are cooperating with federal investigators. Preston paused a news feed showing Wilson's Ferrari collection being seized. Your timing was perfect. The whole empire's collapsing like dominoes. Mike nodded slowly. Princeton's response came through this morning. Preston handed him a letter. They're not just rescinding Kevin's acceptance. They're launching an investigation into the test prep company. Seems your son wasn't the only one who got suspicious score improvements. Good. Mike's voice was devoid of emotion. And Joanna's real estate license? State Board's emergency meeting is tomorrow. With the evidence we provided, Preston shrugged. She'll be lucky if she ever sells another house. Bobby Yates burst into the office, his face flushed with excitement. Mike, you need to see this. He turned on the local news channel, where Stanley Key, Mike's principal, was giving a statement outside the high school. The allegations of academic dishonesty are deeply troubling, Stanley was saying. Our investigation has revealed systematic cheating involving multiple students, facilitated by external parties. We're cooperating fully with authorities and have implemented new security measures for all standardized testing. Mike watched his boss defend the school's integrity with cold satisfaction. Stanley's handling it well. That's not all, Bobby grinned. The school board called. They want to promote you to head of the science department. Seems they're impressed by your dedication to academic integrity. In the auto shop? Mike raised an eyebrow. Are you kidding? After what you uncovered about Wilson's money laundering? Bobby laughed. Half his fleet was serviced at our shop. The feds are combing through every record, and we're coming out smelling like roses. That management position is yours whenever you want it. Preston muted the TV as another report about Wilson's arrest began. Have you heard from them? Joanna's staying with her sister in Worcester, Mike replied. Kevin? Apparently the community college accepted him for the spring semester. They'll both have to testify in Wilson's trial. Any regrets? Preston studied his friend's face. Mike stood, walking to the window. They made their choices. Every betrayal, every lie, every moment they laughed at my sacrifice. Those were choices. I just made sure those choices had consequences. Bobby shifted uncomfortably. The other guys at the shop, they're saying you're different now. Harder. I am different. Mike turned back to them. The man who worked 3 jobs to support an ungrateful family? He's gone. The father who believed in second chances? Dead. The husband who trusted blindly? Buried. His smile was cold. What's left is exactly what they created. Someone who understands that loyalty, once broken, can never be repaired. Preston's phone buzzed with a news alert. Wilson's lawyers are pushing for a deal. They want to flip him against his co-conspirators. Let him. Mike's voice held no mercy. Let him betray them like they betrayed me. It's fitting. As Mike left the office, Bobby turned to Preston. Think he'll ever forgive them? Preston thought about the quiet chemistry teacher who'd come to him weeks ago, seeking evidence of his family's betrayal. That man had died a little each time he uncovered another layer of deception. What emerged was someone else entirely, someone forged in the fire of betrayal and tempered by revenge. Some betrayals go too deep for forgiveness, Preston replied. Mike gave them everything, his time, his trust, his dignity. They took it all and laughed at his sacrifice. That's not something a man like Mike Montgomery forgives. 1 year later, Mike sat in his home office, the space transformed from its previous incarnation. The water rings on his father's mahogany desk had been carefully restored, leaving no trace of Wilson's disrespect. The Princeton acceptance letter was gone, replaced by teaching awards and recognition for academic excellence. The house felt different now, cleaner somehow, as if the years of deception had been purged from its walls. The surveillance cameras remained, though they no longer recorded betrayals. Now they simply guarded what was his, a reminder that trust, once shattered, never returns unchanged. Preston's visit was expected. His old friend entered carrying a thick file and an expression of satisfaction. Wilson's beach house goes up for auction next week, Preston announced, dropping the file on Mike's desk. The feds are liquidating his assets. Thought you might be interested. Mike smiled, the expression carrying none of its former warmth. Bid on it. I could use a vacation home. Feeling vindictive? Preston settled into a chair. Practical. Mike opened the file, reviewing the property details. It's a good investment, and there's a certain poetry to it, don't you think? Preston nodded, understanding the symbolism. The beach house where his family had plotted their future without him would become his personal retreat. Heard anything from them? Joanna's living with her sister, working retail since her real estate license was revoked. Mike's voice held no emotion. Kevin's finishing his first year at community college. Working part-time at a garage, actually. Learning the value of honest work. And Wilson? 15 years, minimum. His cooperation didn't buy him much leniency. Too many people eager to testify about his operations. Mike closed the file. The empire he built on lies and betrayal. All gone. Preston studied his friend. The past year had changed Mike Montgomery. The quiet chemistry teacher had been replaced by someone harder, more focused. His promotion to department head had come with accolades for improving academic standards. The auto shop's management position gave him authority he wielded with precise control. Even his security work had evolved into consulting on corporate surveillance systems. You know, Preston said carefully, some people say you went too far. That destroying them all was excessive. Mike's laugh held no humor. Excessive? I gave them everything, my time, my trust, my dignity. Worked 3 jobs to give them the life they wanted. And how did they repay me? By turning my son into a cheater. By using my house for their affair. By laughing at my sacrifice. He stood, walking to where his father's photo sat prominently displayed. My father taught me that a man's worth is measured by his principles, by his willingness to work hard and stay true to his values. They didn't just betray me. They betrayed everything he stood for. And now they understand consequences. Mike's voice was steel. Joanna lost her license, her lifestyle, her lover. Kevin lost his shot at Princeton, his trust fund, his easy path through life. Wilson lost his empire. And they all lost their freedom. Joanna to poverty, Kevin to honest work, Wilson to prison. Preston watched his friend, remembering the man who'd first come to him, seeking evidence of betrayal. That man had been hurt, angry, but still capable of forgiveness. This version of Mike Montgomery was something else entirely, a force of nature who'd methodically destroyed everyone who'd wronged him. Any regrets? Preston asked softly. Mike turned from his father's photo, his eyes hard. Only that I didn't see it sooner. But that's the thing about betrayal. It teaches you to watch more carefully, trust more cautiously, strike more decisively. A notification lit up Mike's phone, the auction house confirming his interest in Wilson's beach property. He smiled, a cold expression that never reached his eyes. You know what the hardest lesson was, Preston? Mike sat back at his father's desk, now restored to its former glory. Learning who truly deserves your loyalty. Family isn't about blood. It's about honor, respect, trust. They forgot that. I didn't. As Preston left, Mike remained in his office, surrounded by the symbols of his new life. The teaching awards that represented honest achievement. The auto shop reports showing legitimate success. The security consulting contracts built on his reputation for attention to detail. He picked up his father's photo, studying the face that had taught him about integrity and consequences. You were right, Dad. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that make us strongest. The Montgomery house stood quiet, its secrets now converted to evidence, its betrayals transformed into justice. And at its heart sat Mike Montgomery, a man who'd learned that true strength isn't in forgiveness. It's in ensuring that those who betray you never forget the cost of their choices. Epilogue. 5 years later. Preston Fowler's investigation firm had grown considerably since the Wilson case. The takedown of a prominent real estate developer had attracted high-profile clients seeking justice against white-collar criminals. His new office occupied the entire top floor of a Boston high-rise, but he still kept the same uncomfortable chair where Mike Montgomery had first sat, planning his revenge. Today, Mike sat in that chair again, though everything else had changed. At 50, he carried himself with the confidence of a man who'd rebuilt his life on his own terms. Department head of sciences at Boston's most prestigious private school, owner of a successful auto repair chain, and security consultant for major corporations, he'd transformed betrayal into empire. Wilson's appeal was denied, Preston announced, sliding a document across his desk. He'll serve the full 15 years. No chance of early release. Mike smiled, the expression still carrying that edge of cold satisfaction. And his friends in high places? Scattered. His networks completely dismantled. The SEC investigation sparked a domino effect. Corrupt judges, bought politicians, dirty cops. They're still finding skeletons in his closet. Preston pulled up a database on his screen. Want to know what happened to everyone? Tell me. Joanna first. After losing her real estate license, she tried moving to Nevada, thought she could start fresh in Vegas real estate. But your documentation of her fraud went national. No state would license her. Preston clicked through several screens. She's working as a receptionist at a dental office in Reno. Makes minimum wage, lives in a studio apartment. Her sister cut ties after finding out she tried to forge her signature on a loan application. Mike nodded slowly. Kevin? That's actually interesting. After community college, he went into trades. He's a certified mechanic now, working at a small shop in Worcester. Got married last year to a schoolteacher. They're expecting their first child. Preston watched his friend carefully. He tried to send you a letter 6 months ago. Care to read it? No. Mike's voice was final. He made his choice 5 years ago. Did he think having his own family would make me forget how he laughed at my sacrifice? Fair enough. Bobby Yates wants you to know the offer to buy his shop chain still stands. He's retiring next year, says you're the only one he trusts to maintain his standards. I'll consider it. The 3 locations I own keep me busy enough. Mike leaned forward. What about Wilson's inner circle? Preston grinned. This is where it gets good. Remember his brother-in-law, the one running the test prep scam? Serving 10 years for fraud. His board members? 2 committed suicide when their other illegal activities came to light. His personal attorney flipped on everyone to save himself, ended up disbarred anyway. The empire didn't just fall, it was obliterated. And Wilson himself? A shadow. Prison wasn't kind to him. His wife divorced him, married his former CFO. His kids changed their last names. The FBI's still finding hidden assets, but most of his fortune's gone to fines and restitution. Preston pulled up a recent prison photo. Look familiar? Mike studied the image of his former rival. Gone was the sophisticated real estate mogul with the expensive suits and confident smirk. The man in the photo was gaunt, gray, defeated. Karma's a patient teacher. Speaking of teaching, Preston changed subjects. I heard about your program at the school. Ethics in Academia? Required course for all seniors now. We study real cases of academic dishonesty and their consequences. Stanley Key says it's reduced cheating by 80%. Using your own story as a teaching tool? Names changed, of course. But yes. Mike's smile was cold. Nothing teaches consequences like real examples. And the beach house? Still using it? Renovated it completely. My father's desk sits in the office there now. Sometimes I work from there, looking out at the same view they enjoyed while plotting their betrayal. Mike's voice carried no regret. It's a daily reminder that everything they took from me became mine in the end. Preston pulled out another file. Lucia Reeves asked about you. Her forensic accounting firm's expanding, wants you on the board. Says your experience with the Wilson case makes you perfect for oversight. Tell her I'll think about it. Between the schools, the auto shops, and consulting, my plate's full. Mike stood, walking to the window. It's ironic, isn't it? They betrayed me because they thought I was just a simple teacher working 3 jobs. Now I own more than Wilson ever did, built on honest work instead of fraud. Your father would be proud. He taught me that respect is earned through integrity. That lesson saved me when I discovered their betrayal. Mike turned back to his friend. Any word from Yvonne? Rasmussen? She's department head at MIT now. That video compilation system she developed for your case? She patented it. Courts use it for evidence presentation. Preston hesitated. She asked about you too. Says you should guest lecture for her forensics course. Mike nodded thoughtfully. Maybe. Her help was crucial in exposing them. She deserves whatever success she's found. You know, Preston said carefully, Kevin's baby. That would make you a grandfather. Biology doesn't equal family. Mike's voice was steel. My father taught me that family is built on trust, loyalty, respect. Kevin betrayed all 3. His child has nothing to do with me. A notification lit up Preston's phone. Another Wilson asset discovered. Another piece of the fallen empire being dismantled. Sometimes I wonder, Preston mused, if they ever realized what they lost. Not just the money or status, but you. Your loyalty, your dedication. They never valued those things, Mike replied. They saw my hard work as weakness, my trust as foolishness. So I showed them what real strength looks like. Methodical, patient, absolute. As Mike left the office, Preston reflected on the transformation he'd witnessed. 5 years ago, his friend had been a betrayed husband and father, working 3 jobs to support an ungrateful family. Now he was a force in Boston's educational and business communities, his name synonymous with integrity and consequences. The next morning, Lucia Reeves read the Financial Times over coffee. A small article caught her eye. Former real estate mogul's last property sold in federal auction. She smiled, knowing who the buyer was. Mike Montgomery had acquired the last piece of Wilson's empire, adding it to his legitimate business holdings. In Worcester, Kevin Montgomery Shaw, he'd taken his wife's name, held a wrench with calloused hands, finally understanding the dignity of honest work his father had tried to teach him. The invitation to his wedding had been returned unopened. The letter announcing his expected child had met the same fate. Some betrayals, he'd learned, were beyond forgiveness. Joanna what stared at her tiny apartment's walls, surrounded by remnants of her former life. Designer clothes she couldn't afford to replace, photos of a family she destroyed, memories of power she traded for temporary luxury. Every month, she watched part of her minimum wage salary go to legal fees and restitution payments. Every night, she dreamed of the life she'd thrown away. And in a federal prison, Terrence Wilson sat in his cell, all his wealth and influence stripped away. His commissary account received regular statements showing his remaining assets being auctioned, most purchased by the man he'd once mocked for working 3 jobs. His empire had crumbled, but Mike Montgomery's had risen from its ashes, built on the same principles he'd scorned: integrity, hard work, and the understanding that betrayal carries consequences that echo through generations. In his office at the prestigious Boston school, Mike adjusted his father's photo on his desk. The mahogany surface gleamed, no trace remaining of the water rings that had once marked Wilson's disrespect. On the wall hung his numerous awards and recognitions, testimony to success earned through honest work rather than deceit. His phone buzzed, another offer to buy one of Wilson's former properties. Mike smiled, remembering Preston's words about karma. He'd taken everything they'd used to betray him, the beach house, the business connections, the social status, and transformed it into something stronger, something built on principle rather than lies. The betrayal that was meant to destroy him had instead revealed his true strength. In trying to break him, they'd only succeeded in burning away everything weak, leaving behind a man who understood that sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply ensuring that those who betrayed you live long enough to watch you succeed without them. 5 years had taught them all valuable lessons. For Joanna and Wilson, the lesson was that power built on betrayal crumbles. For Kevin, it was that trust, once shattered, cannot be repaired with apologies. And for Mike Montgomery, it was his father's final lesson, that true strength lies not in forgiveness, but in ensuring that those who mistake your loyalty for weakness never forget the cost of their betrayal. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.